once you can see an X-ray and truly find the cause of the problem and then show where normal should be to where you're at, there's two choices.
Right.
You either fix it or you don't.
Yep.
And majority of the people will fix it because they can see with their own eyes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the BetterWealth podcast. I am here with my doctor/chiropractor, and what's really special is we have implemented a financial X-ray where you come in and we show you, number one, what's going on in your life. We give you ultimate clarity on what's going on with your cash flow, where your money's going, better strategies. And at the end of the day, if you don't know what's wrong with you, like, why take action? And I have to say, this X-ray experience was inspired by the guy sitting next to me that's twice my size, all of muscle, by the way, and just very much like I was blown away by your process and your practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this up, and I want you to share your story, and I think it's really special. We got referred to you by some mutual friends. We come in, and I'm like, I told Dan, I do not want to buy whatever this person's selling. Like, I'm young. I'm not feeling 100% optimal, but like I have no problems. We walk in and we meet you, your amazing staff. And what ends up happening is you take us through this X-ray process. You show us exactly what's going on with our body. And at no sales pitch, you showed me what optimal looked like, and you showed me where I'm at. And a 24-year-old dropped some money on a program that's made me healthier, give me more energy. But the cool thing was, it was a no-brainer. It was like, of course I'm going to do that, because you didn't lead with, this is what you should do. You led with, this is what's going on. So with that, how's that for an intro?
That's epic, man. Thanks, Caleb. It's one of those things, like we look in, like you're saying, we have to see what's going on to get to the root cause of the problem.
Yep.
Right? And we can have all these ulterior motives, and we can have all these different reasons. But once a person knows that there's something wrong,
right,
they have two options.
Yep.
Their options are, I can fix it or I can leave it.
Yep.
And you're one of the people that took action. Right? You're an action taker. And that's why I think people love you. I mean, you do a podcast, you're 24, super successful. You're into, making people's lives better at such a young age. And that's because you do it for yourself first.
Right.
And I think that's what I do too, is like, a guy asked me today, he's like, what supplement should I take? What's the best form of this? I'm like, well, I'm on a new one. He's like, what's it called? I'm like, I can't tell you because I need to do it first. I need to experience it and go through it and do that. So it's the same thing. Like, once you can see an X-ray and truly find the cause of the problem and then show where normal should be to where you're at, there's two choices.
Right. You
either fix it or you don't.
Yep.
And majority of the people will fix it because they can see with their own eyes. And I'm not, there's no smoke and mirrors. It's, is it, what else could it be? Well,
right.
It's right there. It's clear.
Well, what's interesting is we talk about wealth, but can you be wealthy if you're not healthy?
Let's just throw a name out there. Steve Jobs.
Right.
What's the first thing you think of?
You think of him dying of cancer.
Absolutely.
After being it's sad because it's like, where would Apple be if he was still alive?
Oh.
What's interesting is wealth. Yes, wealth has something to do with the money in your bank account, but it really is a more way of living. And we've identified wealth as living intentionally, and you are the wealthiest if you are living life on your terms, living intentionally, living for a greater purpose than yourself. We could go down the rabbit hole there, but what I would love to do is take a step back and say, what are the problems that we're facing today? Like, our listeners, they're all around the world. Some of them are local to Colorado, but they're all around the country. What problems is America or people facing in 2021? And like, let's identify that before we give some potential areas, solutions that they can lean into. Because you guys, if you're not healthy, get that figured out, because none of this else matters. Like, my book doesn't matter. Our financial X-ray doesn't even matter if you're on your deathbed.
Well, that's, you're saying health, and, health is your greatest wealth. And I think you would agree with me on that, just from what you said. I mean, if you're dying and you have billions of dollars, what good is that money? Because you're going to spend every last cent of that trying to get back something you should have already had.
Right.
So I always try to teach people that health is the primary. And from being healthy, you can do more, you can feel more, you can engage more, you can encourage more, you can be a better husband, father, brother, sister, mother, whatever it is, if you're at your optimal potential.
Right.
But you asked that question about what people are facing today, and it would be, we were talking about it earlier. It's stress, man. It's stress overload syndrome,
Yep.
right? SOS. Like, people are so stressed today with everything that's gone on in the last year.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't even want to bring it up, but even though people thrived,
Yeah.
right? Because companies still thrived, there was still stress.
Okay, let's take a step back. So when I went to college, I experienced the stress of the exam. Okay, so that's a form of stress.
Yep.
But like, let's talk about this thing that I'm holding in my hand right here, the cell phone. My dad actually, in his book, he talked about how we live in a culture where you're sending a text and you could text me right back. Like, where there's never a turn-off switch. What kind of stresses are we experiencing in 2021? We could talk about COVID, but we can also talk pre-COVID. This message didn't change because of what happened this last year. So what are some areas that you've seen in your clients or people that you serve that are just like, that are getting stressed out? Like, what are the forms of that? And then what I want to go into is, what does stress do to our body?
Okay. So great question. So forms of stress would be like your Facebook, your social media. Am I liked? Am I this person? Is life great? Do I have the fancy cars, clothing, houses, trying to be like the influencers?
A lot of it's built around status.
Oh, everything. Right. And I was saying to you, and I was going to tell you the story earlier, that I had came out with a post, a comment, and it was me explaining something, and it was the van analogy I was using with you earlier. And I had it written up, and it felt great to write it up, but I never sent it. And I pray every night with my kids before bed. It's now one of our rituals that we do. Daddy, you come say prayers. And instead of praying, it's like more of like a conversation with God being our friend. Right. And I think that's the greatest relationship I can teach my kids, is that God's your friend. He's not someone you kneel down to and pray and ask for in times of need, but you have communication.
Right.
So every night I end and I say, God, allow us to act in certain ways that when people see us, they see you.
Yeah.
And so I never sent this post, because even though it was a good analogy, it was still making me a bad person, because I think that's what social media intensely wants us to do, right? Engage and fight and banter and bicker, and there's no good of that. So I think one of the biggest problems we're seeing in the current situation is social media. The phones. I laughed when you said, I text you, text back. I'm like, I always remember being a kid, you'd get home, and when I was a young kid growing up, there was no caller ID, there was nothing. So if someone didn't call, you either had an answering machine, or you're the smarter family and you didn't. And you didn't care what you missed, because you lived in the now. So nowadays, then when I got older, into my 20s, you check that, oh, I need to see who called, stressing you out. And now it's even worse.
Oh, The Social Dilemma is a documentary. Have you seen it?
No, I don't need to see it, because
freaky.
I know it's that bad.
It's freaky.
Right.
The suicide rates on kids have skyrocketed. Let's just go back, because this is how my brain works. Let's talk about categories. So marriage, 50% plus end in divorce. You think that comes with some stress? Your technology, the news. Back in the day, not that I know this, but back in the day, I don't think there's we didn't get news lines hitting our phone every day.
Well, now you get that alert.
Yeah.
Now you get, today's COVID alert is Mob. I'm like, what?
You never get a positive alert, you know? Let's talk about money, because I'm the first person that says money is not the number one problem. Like, a lot of people say money is the number one reason people get divorced. It's things that you don't want to disclose on a questionnaire, but it's up there. So it's like the financial stress. Like we talked about inflation. We talked about like the economic unknowns. We talked about not making enough money. We talked about, overspending. Like, all those things have stress, and there's so many other places. So one of the things I would encourage you, as you're listening to this or watching this, is start highlighting what are some of the root causes that you are getting stressed on. Like, is it money? Is it how people are viewing you? Is it that you're not fulfilled in your job? Is it that you're stressed because you're actually not feeling healthy? Like, I had a conversation with someone I love very much, and this person was frustrated because they felt like their body was not in tune with how it should be working. And so the stress of the unknown is huge. The last thing I'll plug, and then I want to go into the science behind what stress does to our body, is one of my favorite books is Napoleon Hill's writings of Think and Grow Rich and Outwitting the Devil. And he talks about some of the biggest root fears that keep people behind. And some of it is fear of what other people think of you, fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of dying, fear of getting old. All these fears are something that we very much need to be able to address and highlight so that we can then understand how we can live better. So anything that you want to add to that before we talk about the stress?
No, I think that's right. I mean, you're either moving away from something or towards something, and most of us are motivated by the fear of.
Yep.
And so we move away.
Okay, so I'm stressed out right now.
Okay.
What is that actually doing to my body?
Okay, great question, right? So how does stress attack the physiology of the human body? Well, on a greater level, it creates a ripple effect of hormones. It creates high blood pressure, a respiration rate, lack of sleep. It's the fight or flight response.
Yep.
So you got to think that if there's a whole bunch of stress in your life, you're running from the stress.
Yep.
And you can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. But people always look at outside stress.
Yep.
Okay, we can sort of control that, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to get away, go meditate. But internal stress is more damaging than the external stress because it affects the brain and the spinal cord. So the brain is the controller, right? That's Houston control. It sends signals down the spinal cord, out the nerves to every organ, cell, and tissue in the body. That signal or that tissue cell has to get information back up the spine to the brain. That's what we call health, right? Your body's healthy when you're at homeostasis. So that means the body heals, regenerates, and repairs. So when the body can move correctly, you can adapt to the lifestyle stress that comes your way. So you can adapt to sitting. You can adapt to people smoking near you. You can adapt to the bad food. But if inside your body is so stressed and so structurally damaged, you can't adapt. When you can't adapt is when the greatest effect comes in because your body's moving on a continuum towards death. It will burn out, right? So inside of all of our bodies is an intelligence that runs us. It's always there and it's always doing the right job. So every symptom you have or every problem you have is your body adapting to its environment. The better you can adapt, the better you will be. The less you can adapt, the less you'll be. So if there's structural damage, you can adapt well. And then I know you're going to say, take it back, and you're going to talk to me about, want me to mention about the Atlas, because that's how my office is revolved around. And so if people don't understand, the Atlas is the top bone of your neck. It's the single most vertebrae, and it's at the top of the spinal column or the cervical vertebrae. And basically your brainstem goes down to C2. Atlas is a ring bone, and I'll show it on the screen here. It's a ring bone. The brainstem goes through it. And from traumas, so from slips and falls, from accidents, from repetitive motion, your spine will move out of alignment to protect itself. It's all a protective mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're subluxated, and I'll do it here on screen, I'll give myself a head tilt. Neurologically, what happens is my body raises my hip and drops a shoulder to bring my eyes level.
Yep.
So now I'm looking level, but I have major stress in different parts of my body being applied. So if we never have an X-ray of that, we don't know how to correct it.
Right.
Just like you in finances. If you don't see people's finances and I tell you everything's good, you would assume that everything is what?
Everything's good.
Right. So you can only teach me to what I tell you.
Yep.
So it's the same thing in the human body. I could look at that and say, I think I know where I can fix it. Or I can take specific X-rays to find the true cause where I don't think anymore. And that think is removed with, I can now fix the cause of this issue. And we make specific adjustments and it sets that Atlas free, taking pressure off the brainstem, allowing communication, allowing innate to flow back to the body. And then the body sort of unwinds itself and then we can correct the rest of the spine. But if we have less stress inside, the world can affect us. And I can go back. Can I share my story real quick?
Totally.
So for you guys listening, I got adjusted for the first time when I was 12. My oldest brother was my first chiropractor. My dad said one day, he picked me up from school. He's like, we're going to go to your brother's office. He's a chiropractor. He's going to adjust you. I had no idea what it was. Went in, got adjusted. It was pretty cool. I said, why should I do this? He goes, if you get hurt in an accident, injured in sports, or have an acute injury, that's what chiropractic does.
Yep.
So I used it. It was my way to get me back on the hockey rink or on the rugby field faster than anyone else. That's what I did. I got in a car accident. I went to my brother immediately after the car accident, and he gave me the ultimatum: you can play football or get your spine corrected. So I did what any other 16-year-old would do. I chose football. You only have a certain amount of years of playing high school
YOLO,
football.
you only win once.
Absolutely. So after that, I didn't know, I got into chiropractic school from playing rugby. So they offered me a rugby scholarship. So I flew from Canada down to Davenport, Iowa to went to Palmer Chiropractic College. In school, I wanted to go back and open up a practice with my brother called the House of Pain, right? Like the song's going in my head. There's a logo,
Yep.
awesome, right? Like hardcore. Let's just deal with pain because that's what I thought chiropractic was.
Yep.
At 26, 6 months before I graduated, I was having major digestive issues. Every time I'd eat food, run to the bathroom, throwing up bile on Wednesdays. It was awful. I went home to Canada to get tested because clearly the Canadian medical system is way better than the American medical system.
It's cheaper, right?
It was free, right? Because that's another lie. That's
Yeah.
a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
So I go home to Canada and I go to see my medical doctor. He calls me back the next day. He's like, hey, you got cirrhosis and diabetes. Here's a list of pills to take, right? 27 years old, cirrhosis, diabetes, medications, rest of my life. So I did what I tell people not to do is I went on Dr. Google. He's not your friend. And I Googled every drug that I was given and I looked at the side effects, and the common side effect was infertility, sterility, and erectile dysfunction. I was just engaged and now I'm like, oh crap, I can't have kids.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to do. I started asking some people like, go see this doc, go see this doc. And I fought it because I didn't think a chiropractor could help me based on my past experience and education. So 3 months go by. I have nothing to lose, everything to gain. I go meet this doctor. My wife and I went out, saw him speak, and completely mind blown that this guy talked about how the body can heal, how the body, has innate healing power, and that the subluxation stops the body from doing that. And you can find it and fix it and correct it and get your body working better and healthy and thriving. And I'm like, I want this. But I'll never forget during that time, I said, oh my God, I get it. And so I looked at my wife and she looked back to me. She's like, that's what we're going to call our office. It's called I Get It. Because when I got what chiropractic could do for me, I wanted to get that message out to humanity because I think everyone should live with a clear and adjusted spine and nervous system.
Yep.
Okay. So much so that all my 3 children now, yes, I have 3. We just had one,
It's awesome, man.
3 months or 3 months ago. All of them started off life free and clear with an Atlas adjustment.
Yep.
Right? Because I want my kids to understand what it's like to live at 100% for their entire life and not have to go find it when it's gone.
Yep.
And so that's my story. So that's why I do the Atlas. That's why I get the body working again and correcting it, is because I know that it works. And I have 100% faith in people's bodies. I always tell people when they come in, I have more faith in your own body than most people do.
Yep.
Because I've seen
Right.
I've seen cancers go away. I've seen tumors shrink. I've seen MS clear up. I've seen people that were told never have children birth children just from getting their spine and nervous system working correctly.
I think one of the things, and we're going to wrap this up, and by all means, let me know if you want to get more health related subjects on the podcast. But one of the things that I see the foundation of what you and I do is get you to where you can thrive. It's like you could have your Atlas adjusted, your body optimal, and you're going to do better, but you can still eat trash, be negative, be stressed, and like the end result of that is not going to be like crazy, but it will be better. It'll be more efficient. But the same thing goes with the money side. You can get efficiencies. You can figure out ways to optimize the money coming in and limit the money that you're consuming and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, if you don't have something bigger, if you don't have a reason why it matters, it will make you more efficient. But what's the point? And one of the things that it's the testimony in working with you is like, you don't think a 24, 25-year-old person has like I didn't need anything really. Like when it comes to the world, I was active, all this stuff. But what was really cool is you asked me like, what were some of my goals? And by working with you, I was able to show up more powerfully in those areas. And I just like, there's a couple light bulb moments, and that's again why we've decided to do the BetterWealth XRay. Is I want people, number one, regardless if they work with us or not, to have a system of figuring out exactly where they are, because no one's telling you, no one's being straight up with you. And it's like, if you can see that, if you can get your X-ray report, we're all on the same page here. And then, obviously we do adjustments a little bit different, but at the end of the day, I want to thank you for opening my eyes to something more than just the health and chiropractic side, but to a way of just thinking. And I wish more people in the financial business were like how you operate your business. Anything that you want to end with as it relates to what you've seen in America, as you've seen with adjustments, as you've seen with helping people be healthier?
Only thing is that we see like so many different people come in, their lives change just from one simple adjustment, right? Yeah. And I always do that, after I get the specialized X-ray. I love setting Atlas because I love seeing the energy come back in that person. And I just know, like people always say, what's the solution? And it's going to sound bad, but I think that what I do is the solution for a lot of the problems that we're facing in terms of depression and anxiety and, you know, like you said, divorce and just people not showing up their best. It's because there's pressure. And Caleb, if I was chasing you around your house for 10 straight years, how would you feel? Depressed, anxious, like you would hate life because you just don't feel the best. And it's, you know, you show up better in every area of your life when you're at 100%. And that's what chiropractic does. We get you back to 100%.
So of course, we're having our minds put together and figuring out how we can serve the BetterWealth community better, but then ultimately how we can serve your people better. And I love your name of I Get It, because I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, they get it. And they've had that I get it moments with just working with BetterWealth. And so with that, I have a final question that I ask every person that has the opportunity to be a guest on here, and it's the legacy question. And the legacy question goes like this. This is your last day on earth. You're with the people that you love the most, so your family, your 3 kids, and maybe more. What would be the thing that you would pass on and share with them in that last conversation? You can't do anything. You can't give them anything physical other than a conversation. What would you make sure to highlight in that conversation?
I would just highlight, I want them, you know, my wife would know because she thinks a lot of me, but I would tell my 3 kids that God wants them to be the best versions of themselves and not a bad version of somebody else. So really stay true to what you feel, what your desires are, what you want to be, and just be grateful and that unique person that you are. You know, my wife always makes fun of me. I'm like the silverback gorilla. That's what a lot of people are calling me these days. I can't do nothing about the color of my hair. My hair turned gray in weeks, man. People like diet. I'm like, no, that's just a fake version of who I am. This is who I am. This is what you get. And this is what you see. And I think being authentic and having authentic relationships and communication and always going somewhere looking to see what I can do for other people would be the greatest things. That'd be the legacy that I'd leave my kids.
I love that, man. And if someone's watching this or listening to this and saying, okay, I am not healthy right now, I want a better way, is it one of those things that they should get in touch with you? Is there a question that they should ask? Is there a resource you recommend? I know that there may be more to come, so listen up, but is there anything that any call to action that you would give the BetterWealth Nation if they're listening or watching this?
Yeah, man, if you got a pulse and it's beating, then I'm your guy. Just like Caleb's your guy with finances, I'm your guy with your life and your health, and I'll help you get there. We've had people fly into Colorado, and I've got them done on advanced plans, you know, fast and furious plans. I can help get people to you if you don't want to come out here too. I know some people, you're not going to get me, and that's what you guys understand.
Not going to get this.
You're not.
Amazing, good-looking energy ball.
There's only one of me, and I can't be made. I can't copy myself. You can hit up my website, www.igetitchiropractic.com. You can call our office. It's 303-424-1207. Mention that you got me from Caleb and BetterWealth, and we'll look after you when you call.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate all of you guys listening to this. If you're watching this, you get to see both Dr. RJ and myself in the studio, and be out on the lookout. You can probably check out the links below, but we are taking this whole idea of a financial x-ray seriously. And so if this is something that resonates with you, if you really want to understand what's going on in your own life and then have some direction on what the next steps are, I would highly, highly encourage you to take some time, check out that, and really to go through it, because our financial doctors or coaches really want to come alongside you and help you with that. And so with that, have an incredible, intentional rest of your day.